It is a DC heavy week, but we've got quite a few things to talk about that I read this week, and I read Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. Is it as bad as everyone said it was? Let's talk about the big two. Howdy, howdy, I'm American Texan, and I love comic books, specifically reading comic books, enjoying the art and the stories within. We'll let other channels talk about the drama and the stupid things that writers and creators say. We're here to talk about the stories within, and specifically in this video, we're talking about the big two releases from February 11, I think it was, and I got eight or nine books from the big two, Marvel and DC, as well as the trade of Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. I wanted to read this before the movie. I didn't want to pay $20-$30 for the trade, but they did come out with the compact comic, so I did get it. Check it out for $10. I love these compact comics because I can get a risky book that I'm not sure I'm going to like because it was only $10. Also, don't forget, we are doing our subscriber giveaway. We just passed 100 subscribers. We're actually at 110 now. Thank you guys. Your time and attention and your hit of the subscribe button mean the world to me. So we're going to be doing a giveaway. We've got some singles here. I've got to go get them out of my, go dive and get them out of my box. But also worthy of note, we're going to do a Geiger Volume 1 as part of the package. This is the original Geiger. If you have not read it, it is an absolute joy to read. And as a bonus, if we get to 200 subscribers, hang tight, I'm going to tell you how you can get into the giveaway. If we get to 200 subscribers, we're going to give away this Junkyard Joe Deluxe hardcover edition here. If we get to 200 by the end of February, we're halfway through. I don't know if we're going to get there, but if we do, I'm going to say goodbye to this puppy here. So if you want to get in on the giveaway, subscribe and comment free 100, one word. You get one entry per video. So watch a video, like the video, comment on the video. And at the end of the month, I'm going to pick a random video, pick a random comment that says free 100. And that is going to be the winner. And then we'll do all that. So I think we'll do a few of them. I'll try to put some stuff together, put together 2 or 3 packages for you guys. So, thank you so much for watching. And again, so now let's go over to the table and let's talk about the big two books that I read this week. All right, here are the books that I read from the big two. We've got 8 floppies and 1 trade. I'm going to hit the trade last, but let me tell you, I have mixed feelings on this one. I didn't dislike it as much as I thought I would. I also didn't like it as much as I wanted to, but we'll talk about Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow last. Let's get into the floppies that I read for this week. Again, 8 books, 2 from Marvel. Unfortunately, no new releases, so to speak. So we've got The Planet of the Apes versus Fantastic Four, #1. This one is by, if I can find the credits page here, writer Josh Trujillo and artist Andrea DeVito. I got this on a whim, not on a whim, but I got this off the shelf because I heard good things, and so I was interested to try it out. And yes, I think the art is great. I love the coloring, this classic coloring here. But I just don't know that much about Planet of the Apes. You know, I have I think a little bit past surface level, but I'm still at the point where I read the name Dr. Zaius and I think about The Simpsons and not the movie. So overall, though, I think it was a good book. And if you do like Planet of the Apes and Fantastic Four, I think it's a great read, or maybe even just one of them, but there just wasn't enough here for me. So I did give it, I think, a 3.5 or a 4 out of 5, but it just isn't for me. It was good action. It was an intriguing storyline. Thought that was interesting the way the characters got there. But overall, I think I'm just not going to pull it. I thought it was a good read, but just not so much for me. And then I also read Punisher #1, The Facsimile. Now I do collect Mike Baron and Chuck Dixon's Punisher runs, but I have not collected and I haven't read the original mini 4-issue run. So this one really just threw you into it, and I thought that was really cool. So this is by Stephen Grant, illustrated by Mike Zeck, and this is basically like a 50-page prison break, and that is cool. So the art is your classic 1980s art here, you know, very illustrated. That's not the word I'm looking for. It's very action heavy, you know, like you got like Frank, not action heavy. What's the word I'm looking for? It's very dynamic. I think that's the word I'm looking for. So like even things like Frank running into his lunchbox, you've got that classic dynamism there. And then basically there's not a prison break, but you know, Punisher has a reputation, and so people try to get after him. He proves that he's not going to take any guff, and then he meets Jigsaw, and then Punisher gets basically roped into a prison escape, and over half the book is really just trying to get through all this. And Punisher, you know, does not have any mercy for the bad guys, but then also he's not exactly going to go after he's not exactly going to kill police or prison guards during the prison break. Thought this was pretty cool. They try to kill him in his sleep and surprise him, but he figures a way out of that. I also love the classic ads in this. So Punisher #1, the Facsimile, I did complain that it was $7, but it is a double-sized issue, so if it was a modern comic book, I think it would cost $7. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, so I think I will go back and collect. I think my comic shop actually has the full run of this, and it's not that expensive, so I might go back and check it out just to give it a read. But this was really good. So unfortunately, Marvel just didn't have too many new stuff for me, but at least these two were good reads, and especially Punisher was actually a great read. All right, on to DCKO, or actually DC Comics. We got 6 issues here, starting with DCKO #4. Everyone's been talking about it. I enjoyed it. The Absolute stuff did seem a little bit like a shoe-in, like, we got to have them fight, or like editorial said, we want them to fight the Absolute Universe stuff, people. And so they had to kind of shoe-in how they got there. So this is written by Scott Snyder. Joshua Williamson wrote the backup, and then Javi Fernandez and Zermanico wrote illustrated those two. I'm loving the art in the DCKO stuff, and it's very, again, just like action heavy, very animated. Maybe that's the word I was looking for. And we got Superman versus Absolute Superman, Batman versus Absolute Batman. Spoiler alert: Batman comes back. I still don't understand how Batman is allowed to come back. Like, why would the Heart Apocalypse not just kick him out? But then we get the Joker changing sides. That was a little bit anticlimactic, but it kind of evens out the scales, because the whole time I'm wondering, like, how is this going to be even? Because we got 3 absolute superheroes versus 4 mainline. Well, I wouldn't say superheroes, because Joker and Lex Luthor are there. But they even it out by bringing Batman back, and then Booster Gold becomes Darkseid. So it does get pretty even. Wonder Woman versus Absolute Wonder Woman, I think, was the best part of this, because it shows that they really are kind of the same character. Superman and Absolute Superman aren't quite the same character, although from what I hear, because I'm not reading it, Absolute Superman is moving more towards regular Superman. Absolute Batman and Batman are not quite the same character, but I think maybe if you put the two in each other's circumstances, like if you took mainline Bruce Wayne, put him in the circumstances of Absolute, maybe they'd be the same. I'm not sure. Yeah. Anyways, I thought that was really great. This is definitely my panel of the week here. You got Kryptonite stolen from Luthor, and he gives it to Batman, Absolute Batman, and Absolute Batman just puts it on his ears and rams it into Superman. I thought that was good. Then you got this whole dice throwing thing, a little cheesy, but they deliver it well. He's like, I don't cheat. I'm Batman. So anyways, if you're not reading this one, and you're trade waiting, it's still a really great read. It's a lot of fun. And if you did read it, let me know what you think, because I'm enjoying this. I think I'm enjoying it more than most people that I hear online. I know a lot of people are saying it's just cape slop. Some people like that, some people don't. But I'm really, really enjoying DCKO. So we got one more issue, so I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. Then we got the tie-in. I would call this more DCKO adjacent, not tie-in. This is written by Jeremy Adams, and this has actually a guest artist on here that I'm not sure who they are, Daniel Bayless, but they did really good with the art. I think getting really good at water action sequence and everything. We get the finishing of this arc here that we're missing Aquaman, and they're figuring out what's happening with the Atlanteans and getting into Zebul and where they went and all that. And we get some pretty good action here, and we find out a little bit of who really this daughter of Aquaman is, kind of sort of from the future. Really good action here, and it's basically a setup. So I think that's interesting that they use the tie-in to set up the next arc for Aquaman, which is the Emperor Aquaman. There's the tie-in, the DCKO adjacent. They also do explain how Aquaman lost, because I was like super bummed because Aquaman just absolutely crushed Hawkman, and then he just loses in the next DCKO battle. Well, they do kind of explain that essentially the Queen here was siphoning off Aquaman's powers that he was getting, the Omega energy, so he couldn't keep up. So anyways, they create, I don't know if this is supposed to be a new Atlantis, but she brings some land out from the ocean, because now she's got the power blue. And then Arthur gets back, he cracks through his stone guardianship or whatever, and he kind of figures out what's going on. And then we get some some stuff there. So I don't want to spoil too much of it. But Aquaman, this arc, I'll tell you what, this issue finishes the arc and it makes things make a lot more sense. It's kind of like Night Fight. Like Night Fight, the whole time I'm like, why are we doing this? What is this for? And then we get to the last issue of Night Fight and I thought, okay, they explained it. They talked about what was happening. That makes sense. And same thing here. The arc is kind of floundering, because Aquaman's not there. But then they explain it, and I thought, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So DCKO Aquaman, I liked it. I would recommend it if you're reading Aquaman. If not, just for the DCKO, it might be a skip. But it does set up a really good arc coming up, so I thought that was great. All right, and then we've got Absolute Wonder Woman Annual #1. Obviously, #1. There's only one, right, every year. This is by Kelly Thompson and illustrated by Mateus De Lewis, I think. The art in this is great. Now, I still like Hayden Sherman's art, but this is a great. I like this one almost as much, but not quite as much. I know some people are enjoying this more. I like the little montage we get here of Absolute Wonder Woman saving people across the world. I'm sure there are some characters here that you're supposed to recognize, but I didn't catch it. And then you've got this. This actually made me do a double take because I was like, wait, is Hayden Sherman illustrating this? But no, they did a really good job of doing almost like a Sherman-esque framing here where Diana's praying to the gods. We find out that she's praying for a specific reason, and the gods finally answer, and they basically say, like, leave me alone. But Diana won't. And here we go. So yeah, Mateus De Lewis. Wow, man. How do you say that there? Mateus De Lewis, maybe. Anyways, or it's actually right here, De Lewis. So, yeah, beautiful art. I really like that. Now, I think he does draw Diana a little too muscular at times. She loses a little bit of that femininity. Man, look at this giant splash page here. That looks great. But everything still looks good. So yeah, so we get a little bit of Diana, another classic flashback of her growing up. Yeah, see here, like I think that's a little bit too much in the arms. A little bit too much in the arms. Looks like that Skittles arm wrestling commercial there. But she still looks great and feminine in other panels. And I think he still captures the eyes. I think that's an important part of Absolute Wonder Woman. And I like that as well. Okay, anyways, so then we get her trying to calm Medusa, try to make up for the punishment that Medusa's going through. And I think it was great. You know, we get a good representation of Diana's, both her compassion, but also she ain't going to take no guff. And I like that a lot. So Absolute Wonder Woman, I think, is a fantastic read. And if you've never read it, it's a great jumping on point. And if you have been reading it, it's a nice callback to something that happened in earlier issues. So I absolutely recommend and love Absolute Wonder Woman. And then we've also got Batman and Robin #30. I was a little concerned because I thought this was going to be like dropping the Quiet Man arc, but no, this actually does a good job of wrapping it up, but they theme it with Valentine's Day. So I guess that works. This is #30. This is the last issue by Philip Kennedy Johnson, and this is illustrated by, let's see here, Fico Osio. And I absolutely love this art here. I like the shininess of it. I really, really enjoy that. So we get Penguin taking credit for the Gotham Hospital rebuild or fundraiser, whatever they're doing. Quiet Man's kind of skulking in the background because he wants to kill Penguin for killing his son. We get this cool shot of Batman overlooking the fundraiser or the hospital here. Yeah, it is a hospital. And, you know, we get some battles here. I really enjoy Scarface in this one. Like, this guy really, it makes Wesker seem even more insane. Wesker's so scared and Scarface is so menacing. And then they talk to each other. Like, it seems so just like absolutely like I'm so scared for this guy because of this guy's mentality. It's really well written and well illustrated as well. But yeah, there's really not much to tell here. You know, it's basically finishing the arc of Quiet Man trying to take some lives, and you know, I think Batman and Robin realize there's going to be some collateral damage, and so they try to prevent the two from fighting, try to get in the way, get a little bit of closure on exactly what happened with the Quiet Man, and the Quiet Man gets a little closure on what happened to his son, and Batman and Robin get a little bit of closure on like, hey, we're trying to be father and son, but maybe we won't always be not always be father and son, but maybe our father and son just doesn't look like how everyone else's does. Because remember, all this started because Batman and Robin just wanted to go see a movie, which is great. So I think this was really well illustrated. The panelings here is great. The story is great. It was a great ending. It ended well. Obviously, they knew it was the ending because it didn't really set anything else up at the end. But man, Bat Dad by Kennedy Johnson is just awesome. So I really, really recommend picking up the trade. I thought this was fantastic. Just, again, one of the best Batman books right now. All right, and then I read Action Comics 1095. I thought this was a good story. A couple things in here that I think I would have preferred a different way, but it's Mark Waid writing it, and let's see here, Del Pecci illustrating. I don't know who that is. So we get a lot about we get a story basically about why Superman keeps his identity secret, and his friend Pete he figured it out, and he wants to understand why Clark doesn't trust him to keep the secret. So you get a great little back and forth dynamic there on, Superman doesn't. It's not a trust thing. It's he doesn't want to put you in harm's way. I think there's a lot of situations where we don't want to tell someone something, not because we don't trust them, but because we don't want to burden them with that. And so, of course, with superheroes, the burden is, you're going to get in trouble. Your life is going to be on the line. Here we go. This is artist Patricio Del Pecci. Classic comic illustrations here, so that's really great. We get Superboy being Superboy, and then we get this kid being bullied. I get that it's a gay allegory here. I don't understand what they were trying to call him here. They're like, because he's an FAL. Like, okay, FAL? I don't know what that is. But anyways, obviously they're making fun of the kid, and he leans into that, gay allegory that so many people want with superheroes, but he doesn't go into it fully. So it's almost like he gives it just enough. Mark Waid gives it just enough to to let you make the comparison on your own. But at the same time, if you're just reading it and you don't have that on your mind, if it's not 2026, you might be tired of that trope, or maybe the internet's just made me tired of that comparison. So we get some really great stories here about Pete, feeling left out, and Lena's, in love with Superboy, but then Lena gets saved by Superboy, or she's crushing on Superboy, and she gets saved by Superboy. And so I think it was a really great issue, a really good issue. I wouldn't say great. It's a story that I think has been forced down so many people's throats. I'm kind of tired of it, but in the context of the arc that Waid is writing for Superboy here, it makes sense that we have to have an issue dealing with it like this. So again, within the arc and within the trade, I think it's a good story. It's just one that I think in 2026, I'm just tired of hearing this comparison, and to have to read it again. That's a me thing. I don't think that's a knock on the book. It's more on just a knock on, I'm on Twitter too much, and people are kind of just wearing me out on this. So anyways, I thought it was good. I don't regret it. I think it fits in the run, but it's a story that I'm kind of ready to move past on reading. All right, last book I read, this is Superman 423 Facsimile, and this is amazing. I've heard of the story. I've never read it, so to pick up the facsimile and read it, first of all, the facsimiles, you get the original ads, you get a little write-up here about Superman's legacy, because this is the last issue of Superman before the creative team changes. This is written by Alan Moore and illustrated by Kurt Swan and George Perez. This is basically Superman's last days on Earth, and we get a little bit of a recap of where some of his villains are, his nemesis, arch enemies, whatever you want to call them are. You get Superman being Superman, and then you get some appearances from Bizarro, from Lex Luthor, let's see, who else, Toyman and Prankster, and the world basically discovers that Clark Kent is Superman, and so he's got to deal with the fallout of that. Lois Lane finds out, and then some people are trying to harm the people around Superman. You get Brainiac and Lex Luthor. Brainiac takes over Lex Luthor. But what really sticks out with me on this one is the absolute just feelings that this brought out. And I love it when a book makes you feel things. And there's a specific panel here. Superman figures out that his days are numbered. And he talks to Crypto. And Crypto's like, obviously feels that something's up. And Superman says, I know, dog. Like, I feel my days are numbered, just like an animal does. And, the animals do know. If you've grown up around animals, when their time's up, they know. Cats will disappear on you, and dogs will, who normally are social creatures, will go under their bed or go behind the couch because they know their time's up. And then the Legion comes and makes an appearance here because they know that this is kind of like their last time to talk to Clark. So just a lot of emotions here about So this is whatever happened to the Man of Tomorrow storyline. I didn't realize that it's a two-parter. So I really want DC to do part 2 for the whatever happened. I think it's Action Comics number 5 something. I did not expect to like this as much. So those are the big 2 reads for the week. I also read Supergirl, A Woman of Tomorrow. I got the compact book. I like to read stuff before the movie comes out, and I hear so many negative things about this, and I want to, before I watch the movie or even talk about it, I want to read the source material. I want to know what I'm talking about. So I read this expecting the worst, and it's not the worst. I think what actually is the worst is the movie seems to take a little part of this about Supergirl's character and blows it up. For example, in this book, yes, our first introduction to Kara is drunk at a bar because it's her 21st birthday, right? Like that's our first introduction. And then throughout the book, she isn't like that. She's not a drunk. Like she was, granted, I don't recommend going out and getting blitzed, ever, but she's not a drunk. I mean, she's a superhero in this. And so why do all the promotional materials, and even at the end of Superman movie, why is she like being promoted as a drunk girl? Like I don't understand why they're doing that. So that's what I was expecting, and you don't get that. So I thought that was good. By the way, this is Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. This is Tom King and Bilquis Evely. I believe they also did Helen of Windhorn, which was an indie book from Tom King, and I actually enjoyed that book a lot. You can see a lot of the similarities here in Helen of Windhorn. So anyways, this story follows Ruthie, who her father's murdered. She wants to get revenge, and in her attempts to get revenge, she runs into Supergirl, and she tries to get Supergirl to help. But then the man who murdered her father, in a twist of things, ends up stealing Supergirl's ship. And so they have to kind of partner up, both to find the ship, to take vengeance on Crypto, because the man shoots Crypto and poisons Crypto. So that's kind of your call to adventure here. There are some issues in here that I thought were really, really interesting. And there are some ideas in here that are good too, I think. So, for example, they're flying on this ship, right? Because Supergirl can't fly because she's been red sunned. And they're trying to get to another planet to get some red sun power for Supergirl. And this guy in the middle seat's being a jerk. And she's like, hey, stop being a jerk, stop invading my space. I think it's kind of cute. Some things Ruthie does annoys me, but this is kind of cute. She's like, hey, I paid for my seat. I was guaranteed a modicum of area, and you are invading this area, and I'd appreciate it if you moved over. And so we get this thing like, let's see here. Let me see if I can find it. Here it is. It was a little bit further. It happens again, and this guy's like, "What are you gonna do about it?" And I do think it's cool. Like, Supergirl is kind of passed out next to them, sleeping, not necessarily from being drugged or being drunk. And then he's like, "What are you gonna do about it?" And there's a few times throughout this book that there's like a one panel of just like quick. Something happened, and then the guy is beaten, or the guy is punched or whatever, and it's Supergirl being quick with her super speed. So I like that. I think that's a nice touch there. We also get this space dragon fight, which is interesting here. Basically, and again, she still doesn't have all her powers, so she has to find some red kryptonite drugs, which is doesn't have to be drugs, but hey, you do what you have to do when you have to battle space dragons in the middle of nowhere. Anyways, so. The standout issue is definitely the third one. This is where Kara is actually being a superhero. They come to a city. They find out it's very much like a Western. Like every issue is like a side quest, almost like a Western. Or if you don't watch Westerns, like The Mandalorian is a good example. They find a town where half of the population has been obviously killed, destroyed, removed. Lesser minds will call it a racism allegory. It could be any kind of allegory you want of just removing one type of person, genocide, so to speak. And they have to figure out what happened. And this is Supergirl kind of like, not standing for injustice, not taking injustice lightly. She stands for those that have been wronged. I think that's great. There's a lot of issues in this where Supergirl is not just a drunk party girl. She does what's right. She fights for truth, justice, and the American way. And it's kind of a joke when they do it, when she says that. But that's really what she's doing. She really does care for people in this, and she's not a drunk. So that kind of worries me about the movie, because in here she's a superhero. Granted, she's a little rough around the edges. I think she's a little too stoic masculine, but that's a creative choice, and I don't think it ruins the story. It's just obviously not my preferred Supergirl, but she's still Supergirl. She still stands for, hope and, justice. I'm going to repeat myself. So anyways, throughout the book, you get these side stories of Supergirl and Ruthie traveling. I will say this, it's very prose heavy, which is normally something I like, but Tom King's prose is a little bit too full of itself. It worked with Helen of Windhorn. It doesn't work for me here. It's just way too much. And they don't exactly tell you that the prose is coming from future Ruthie. If they did, I missed that. I like the way it's done in Helen of Windhorn. You'll hear me do a lot of comparisons because these are kind of the same book, because it's basically the main character being interviewed about stories of her father's past. So that makes sense from a narrative, like, hey, the prose is basically her talking about the interview. In this one, you don't really understand, or I didn't understand, that Ruthie's writing a book and she's really retelling her adventures with Supergirl, so to speak. I think I understand why they called it Woman of Tomorrow. I don't know. I don't know if that was forced, or maybe if I just missed it, or, they knew they wanted the title before they knew how it was going to fit in with the story here. But again, overall, I will say this. I liked it more than I did. I'm glad I read it. There were certain parts that, were kind of a struggle to get through, which is why I have a hard time saying I enjoyed reading it. Also the ending, I don't want to talk about it here in case you haven't read it. But the ending, there were some good parts. There were some bad parts. There was one part where I was like, I like that. Okay, I'm going to spoil it right here. So just jump ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to be spoiled. So at the end, they catch the bad guy, and they have their deliverance here. But what we find out is Supergirl basically sent the bad guy to the Phantom Zone, and he was kept there for 300 years. He was kept in the Phantom Zone for 300 years. And in those 300 years, he cried for 100, or he was mad for 100, he cried for 100, and then he figured out what he did wrong. He learned his lesson, right? He's like, he became a good person, right? So he's been trapped in the Phantom Zone for 300 years, and Supergirl says, hey, you've done your time, your imprisonment is over, which, first of all, this guy killed thousands. It's literally said in the book, he's killed thousands. He should not. He should be in the. If he's not going to get the death penalty, he needs to be in the Phantom Zone forever. But she lets him go, right? And then I'd say this is where I'm kind of like, I don't know about this. So he's like, hey, thank you for leaving me here, letting me go. I promise to do good in your name and be a better person. And Ruthie just kills him. She's just like smack, and then. I'm assuming he's dead. If he's not dead, then it's even worse, because this guy again killed thousands. I understand it's, you want what's the word where you learn from your lessons and you do better, rehabilitation. But this guy killed thousands. He doesn't deserve to walk. Okay, but anyways, Ruthie kills him and then she walks away. So at first I read this and I was like, oh, awesome, they actually killed him. Like, cool. I think that's good. They didn't just imprison him forever so he could escape later. Like, he got the death penalty. He got what he deserved. But they tortured him first, basically. He was kept in the Phantom Zone for 300 years. Like, that's cruel and unusual. Like, the death penalty needs to be swift. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on this. And maybe he didn't die. I just, and then they left him there for dead, or they just left him there. But again, anyways, so I'm kind of mixed on that, because I'm kind of like, oh, good, they gave him the death penalty. That's what he deserves. That's actually pretty cool, Tom King. But then they tortured him first. Like, that's not cool. So I don't know. I'm kind of iffy on the ending. There is also one more Tom Kingism where basically you spend the whole time of the book thinking one thing, and then they tell you, oh no, I just lied about that, or no, that's not true. That's not actually what we're doing here. Like, and it's not done well. It's basically Supergirl being like, oh yeah, no, I lied about that. This actually isn't why I'm here. Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a better way to do that, and Tom King does it in everything that I read of his. I haven't read everything, but everything I have, he does that. So anyway, Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. If you're curious, I think it's a good read for $10. I think it's a good read. There are some parts of this where I thought, oh, I really want the I really want the full. I really wish I was reading it in the full size version because the compact doesn't do it justice. Evely is a fantastic illustrator here, and it really shows. But if you're looking for a good Supergirl story, there's definitely better stuff out there because this isn't Supergirl. This is Tom King's take on Supergirl, and that's what makes me nervous about the movie because now we're gonna get James Gunn's take on Tom King's take on Supergirl, and that's the biggest thing I want you to take away from this talk here, this review is. Supergirl's not a drunk in this one. Like, she has one night out. That's your introduction to her. That's your first impression, maybe. But she's not a drunk. She's not a drunk. She's not a druggie. She's not selfish. She's full of hope. She's a good superhero in this one. Minus your first impression of her. But no, I mean, even in Superman, she's just an angry drunk. Like, I had low expectations for Supergirl, the movie. Now they're even lower because like they took one part of this and just anyways they I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but that's my review of Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Top 3 for the week. Top 3 things that I read. Definitely Superman, definitely Batman and Robin, and then I think Absolute Wonder Woman was a great read as well. Punisher maybe is a close 4th, or DCKO in Punisher a close 4th and 5th. Out of these though, I think the number 3 thing that I read, I'm going to give it to Absolute Wonder Woman, and then number 2, Batman and Robin, and number 1, actually, something old, but something so good, Superman 423 Facsimile. I cannot wait for part 2 of this. That's my top 3 reads of the week. So there you have it, my top 3 reads for the week. An absolute joy to read every one of these, but especially Superman 423. If you see this facsimile, get it, because it is such a pleasure to read. And Woman of Tomorrow, again, liked it better than I thought I would, but still, I don't know, it wasn't quite the Supergirl story that I wanted. Let me know if you liked reading the trade. I found it a little bit hard to talk about because there's just so much in here to talk about. I hope this is going to be a longer video. But I did enjoy sharing the trades that I do read because I don't normally talk about them. The next trades that I'm going through that I'll talk about next in the next Big 2 video is hopefully going to be the Incredible Hulk. This is the beginning of the Philip Kennedy Johnson run. I came in right at the end of the run, so I've been collecting the trades as they come out, and I'm going to start reading through these so I can get an idea, because now we've got Infernal Hulk, which is going to be part 2 of a 3-part arc. So this is part 1, 30 issues or 5 trades, I think. And so I'm going to read through this to get an idea of kind of like where we came from, because I'm still a little bit unsure of that. And I think it's Nick Klein illustrating this as well, so the art's supposed to be great throughout. So this is going to be the next trade that I read through. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate your time and intentions. Again, subscribe and like the video, comment free 100 for your entry into the giveaway, and I will see you all in the next video. Adios.